He's starting to work through the fingers on the cutting line, bringing all of the hair down and working with a little bit of elevation in the fingers and quite loose tension. This is going to allow him to cut the perimeter where the hair is not going to react or spring back in any sort of way at all. The reason you want to separate the hair up into smaller panels when cutting the external length is because if you're working through quite thick hair like we are here, you could find that you're trying to cut through too much hair at one time, which is why you have to subdivide the sections out at the back and work up the head shape in smaller zones. Gianmarco is deciding to work with the points of the scissor, which is going to create a more softer perimeter and cutting line, which will give a little bit more movement and texture through the ends of the hair when it's finished. Now that the perimeter is in through the back, Gianmarco is going to start working internally with the layering. He's going to be working with a center profile guide, 1 finger's depth across, allowing him to work with a consistent amount of hair and not being too much to handle at one time. He's going to be working a rounded cutting line where the root's coming out perpendicular from the head shape, which is going to allow him to not build up any corners of weight through the back and create something that is much more fluid and much softer through the back. Starting at the top of the shape through the zone will allow you to dictate the length and shape that you create at the top of the head, which is important on this internal layering. As you work down the shape in towards the bottom of the nape, you have control over whether you work a complete rounded shape in its pure form or start elevating up a little bit to retain some more length and weight at the bottom. As we move into the next zone, where we're going to be focusing through the front panels either side of the middle profile line, Gianmarco is going to be standing centrally behind the client's shoulder. It's going to be working on a vertical axis, pulling up everything into a round shape on the vertical axis. As he works forward with each and every section, he's going to be over directing backwards into that first initial section. So the number in sections will be 1 working off the base, 2 into 1, 3 into 1, 4 into 1, until we reach the front area, which will be over directed all the way back into that first initial section. Now what he is doing is taking away a small panel over the top of the ear area, roughly 2 fingers depth, horizontally through that side zone. This will keep and maintain the length and weight externally around the edge. So technically, this is a very small disconnection, technically, from the top of the panel all the way down in towards above the ear area. But what you don't see is the disconnection because of the choice of length that he's chosen. Once the 2 side panels have been completed on the front, Gianmarco is now going to focus his attention on creating a fringe area, where he's working from where the roundness of the head starts to move into the frontal zone, working out towards the recession area with a nice triangular shape. He's going to be starting with a vertical profile line right through the center, in line with the nose, where he can establish the length that sits forward on the front of the face. We're generally going to be working with quite a long fringe here, so we want to work with a round shape vertically, and then let the hair sit forward to see where it sits on the face. Everything from then is going to be over directed into that center profile section, meaning it's getting longer and longer towards the corners of the head. Now the fringe area has been internally layered, you can now make any small adjustments to the external shape with a little bit of elevation and point cutting. First and foremost, the blow dry is going to be started through the fringe area, where he just wants to establish the hair to be sitting natural fall through the front. So he's working flat against the surface of the face with a brush just to take the wetness out and get lots of control in the root. And then he's working with a round brush with a low speed and low heat and just getting a little bit of a bend through the hair to be able to sit backwards away from the face. Once the blow dry has been completed, the hair should be 100% dry now and nice and smooth, sitting in the shape that he's cut it into. Now it's time to move into the personalization and removing some density by increasing the texture with some pointing through the last third of the hair. Now the hair has been texturized and the density has been removed through the areas that has been necessary. Gianmarco is going to be moving on to the Hot Tools styling, where he's going to be working with a medium pair of tongs, which is going to add and increase the movement through the last third of the hair specifically. He wants to increase a little bit of movement through the front, and as we can see, the hair is quite thick and dense and straight, so the best way to do this would be to work with the hot irons or the tongs like Gianmarco is doing, and this will help create a small bevel or a bend in the hair, which will make it look a little bit softer and change the whole look up completely. To finish off the styling with the products, we're going to be using a very light hold hairspray, which is just going to enhance the look and give a little bit of a light hold for the overall finish. Gianmarco is now going to move the hair around with the fringe in the way that he wants it to sit, where naturally he's going to go with a slight split through the center where the hair goes from shorter into longer and it starts to frame the face. And it works really beautifully with that rounded internal layering pattern that he's worked through the front and through the back to work with the cheekbone and how it pops out underneath the shorter layer through the front. We hope that you enjoyed watching this mid-length salon-friendly layered look by guest artist Gianmarco Capitano. We hope to see you on the next one.